there is not a quorum requirement, so we are able to proceed. And let me just make some introductory remarks very quickly. And we're here today for a particularly sad reason, because our state failed to detect abusive neglect of adults with disabilities. We failed to adequately investigate complaints and failed to protect those who were abused and failed to help bring their abusers to justice. The Abuse of Adults with Disabilities Intervention Act clearly states that its purpose and intent is to protect from abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and that this state has a responsibility to protect those persons with disabilities while not infringing on the individual's rights. It is the intent of the General Assembly to provide for the voluntary reporting and assessment of alleged or suspected cases of abuse, neglect, and exploitation of adults with disabilities in order for the resources of the state to be utilized to prevent, reduce, or eliminate such abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And we'll just add Representative Deborah Mell to the role. We have come to find out, however, that since 2003, there were 1,040 people who were reported as being abused or neglected to our state hotline, of which 41% were never accepted for investigation, where 53 deaths occurred, and there were absolutely zero felony convictions for that abuse and neglect. These men and women passed away and suffered in very horrible ways. The reported case history showed that circumstances of people living in filth, covered in bed sores and with infections, people had become emaciated skeletons. In all these cases, Candace Coyle of Princeville, James Rayner of Mount Carmel, Veronica Akard of Galesburg, Donna Wimmer of Metropolis, Rebecca Nimmo of Alto Pass, Joseph Duffy from the suburbs of Chicago, and all the other poor souls who perished might have been saved if the system had performed better or even responded at all to their appalling circumstances instead of parsing legal language, simply declaring cases as unsubstantiated, or then declaring that the dead are no longer eligible for services. I believe that the intent of the law was clear. I believe the language of the law has been clear. And I believe that the Inspector General followed neither the intent nor the language. But amongst these failures, there were a couple heroes too, and I just want to mention them here. There were people within our government who risked their jobs and careers to help bring these issues to light. I will not mention their names here, but if you're listening today, all of us in Illinois owe you a debt of gratitude, and we want to thank you for your courage. I also want to thank George Polachek and Beth Hunsdorfer from the Belleville News-Democrat, who are here today, whose relentless reporting brought this matter to light and who told the stories of those who suffered. To all of you, thank you. And now going forward, we cannot undo what has been done, but hopefully we can begin today to be sure that what happened in the last several years will never happen again in Illinois. I am hopeful today that we will hear acknowledgement that our state did indeed fail and we must do better. We will certainly hear that since the initial news stories were reported, there have been many positive developments. On July 6th, Governor Quinn issued an executive order regarding the enforcement of the Adults with Disabilities Interventions Act and requiring the reopening of some complaints where deaths were involved. The current Inspector General has resigned. And on Friday, the governor announced the appointments of Daniel Dyson as Acting Inspector General of DHS and Michael McCotter to lead the Special Investigations Division in that office. I wish them well, and I hope the testimony we hear today will help bring to a close this issue and will signal a new day where we can identify new ways of thinking and organizing systems to better serve and protect vulnerable citizens and to bring to justice those who have done them harm. We have a broad spectrum of witnesses who bring a broad base of knowledge and expertise in this area, and in particular, I would like to hear the thoughts of the witnesses on changing our current siloed approach to abuse, neglect, and exploitation with different statutes, different department agencies, and an array of 800 numbers and reporting systems, etc., into a consolidated entity like a protective services system that other states have implemented. But we welcome all suggestions, And our goal here today is to move our system forward. And at this point, I would like to ask Minority Spokesperson Representative Patty Belloc or other members if they would like to make an opening statement.